Hello and welcome to episode 62 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet in my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is August 26th, 2020. Today I have quite a lot to talk about as my last episode is more than 3 weeks ago. But as usual, I'll start with what I'm wearing. And I am wearing a rather funny thing. This is a crocheted square that I crocheted with all the colors of the cotton Catania that I have in my shop on this shelf. And I crocheted one row with every color, and then I ended with some of the glittery colors that I have. And then I sewed on a few buttons. So I can close it and I can wear it like a shrug or a little jacket. But I can also unbutton it again and I can wear it as a shawl or use it as a little blanket. And I'm quite happy with it. It's pure cotton except for the sparkle on the edge. So it's not too warm for summertime, but it's just a bit of added warmth and especially color. So it has all the colors in it, so I can wear it with anything, but I can also wear it with black and white, which kind of gives it a nice contrast. Yeah, and the jacket I'm wearing is, I'm not quite sure. I don't think it's a pure cotton, but it's at least partly cotton, and it was knit by my former colleague and friend. She knit that while we were still working in that other yarn shop that I used to work at. And back then we had to knit the things that we put in the window, in the shop window, we had to knit in the colors that were specified in the brochure. So I had knit a pullover that I didn't like the colors for myself and I wanted to sell the pullover, but nobody bought it. And then one day she said she wanted to have it and I could pick one of the things that she had knit, and I chose this jacket because I like the pattern and white is always a nice color for summer. So we swapped and I got this nice summer cotton jacket, and I'm wearing this kind of shrug on top. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing today. Then on to finished objects, and because of the long time that has passed, I have quite a few things to show you. I'll start off as usual with my socks. I finished these socks fairly early on in my vacation. It's a opal sock yarn. It's a color from the series Fairy Tale. Magic Potion, I think, is the name of the color. I really, really like it. I'm very happy with how the stripes came out differently, and the pattern is really nice and it's very easy. Yeah, so I finished these, and then I also finished the pink shorty socks. So the camera really has a hard time with that color. It's a very, very bright pink. Nice shorty socks out of the book 101 One-Skein Ideas for Sock Yarn. Wonderful book. I'll link to it underneath the video if you're interested. Yeah, so these are the socks that I finished. And then my, I think the only finished object that you haven't seen before, I think. Had I started the sleeves? Yeah, I had. So this is the only thing that I started during the holidays and finished. And it's a new gnome. And that was another mystery knit along by Sarah Shearer from Imagine Landscapes. And this is the it's a summer gnome. The spring gnome was the very first one that she did. And this is the summer gnome. And usually when she says how much yarn we need, you never need all the yarn because most of the gnomes are fairly small. And she had specified that you need 20 grams in 4 different colors, and I used leftover yarn for 2 of the colors, and I had less than 20 grams, but I thought, well, it's just a gnome, it won't be a problem. And so for colors 3 and 4, I wound a little ball of 12 grams. I think I had about 12 grams of most of the colors. And then you had to double the yarn doubled. I never expected that. So I used up a lot more yarn than I thought, and I ran out of the green. So this is the second arm ends up being pink, and the little pocket, I mean, she says you can use any color you want for the pocket, but in the pattern it should have been green as well. But now my gnome has a pink pocket because I ran out of the green. Yeah, but I think she's absolutely wonderful, and I love the spiral on top. I've seen on Ravelry that some even put a little spiral down at the beard. I love that idea. Yeah, the beard has a little cable running up and down. I love this nose. I think this is my favorite nose so far, and it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's the 6th nose that I've knit with all the gnomes that I've already knit from her patterns, and I just love this one. Yeah, so that was the funniest project, and because it was a mystery knit along and all the clues came out while I was on vacation, I had to start and finish it during that time. Yeah, so then I have another finished object, and that's the sleeves jacket. It's a pattern by Martina Behm, and I used different opal yarns with cotton. So it's part cotton, part wool, and part polyamide nylon. And the pattern, in the pattern, these are long sleeves. I decided to have short sleeves, and it's, as usual with Martina Behm, it's a really funny construction where you knit the two sleeves and then you put the stitches together and you knit the back, and the length of the back is determined by how many stitches you have on your sleeve, and that's determined by how long you knit your sleeves. So because my sleeves are fairly short, the back is also very short. I hadn't quite expected it to be that short, but it's like a small bolero jacket. Do you say that in English? Anyway, it's quite funny. I like the sleeves. I don't really mind about the back because I knit it so my arms, upper arms, will be warm while I'm riding my bike. And I am thinking of blocking it lengthwise when I wash and block it. It hasn't been washed yet. So yeah, that's the plan. And this yarn is a leftover yarn from a pair of socks that I knit, so I can wear the socks and the jacket together. And I used this yarn for a pullover, short sleeve pullover, so I might wear the pullover and the jacket on top of each other. And I knit a pair of socks for my nephew out of this yarn. And my sister knit a skirt for herself out of this yarn. She gave me the rest of the yarn. And I used this yarn for a pair of socks for her. So yeah, I like the fact that I can relate to all the yarns and that I know what I originally used them for. That's quite fun. So yeah, I might show it again next week if it changed a lot during the blocking, but we'll see about that. So that's all the finished objects that are actually finished. I'll show you one more thing that almost made it to finished starters, and that's the crochet top that I started before I went on holiday. And I used the same yarn that I used for this square jackety thing. It's the Catania Glamour, so it's the cotton with glitter in it, and I used the white and the light grey and held it double. And my plan was to crochet 2 squares and then just sew them together at some points, or crochet them together and have a nice light top just to wear on top of things. I had finished the first square before I left, and I think I'd even started the second one. And because the original, the pattern uses thicker yarn and also uses more squares, it was I wasn't quite sure how things would work out. But I added 1 round to the first square that I crocheted. That's the first square that I crocheted, and I can tell because that has been washed and blocked, and it's a lot bigger than this square, even though now they have the same number of rounds and stitches, but you can see that this is still quite a bit shorter because it hasn't been blocked yet. And while I crochet the last round of the second square, I crocheted the sides together. And because it was a bit too small, I decided to crochet like a strip over the shoulder, hoping it would come down a little bit and then maybe fit a bit better, but it's still too small. So I fiddled around with these shoulder strips, but no matter what I did, even with the square that was blocked, it was just too tight and it was too short and it just absolutely made no sense. So I stopped crocheting on it and I didn't undo it yet because I wanted to show you how things sometimes do not work out. But yeah, my plan now is to undo those shoulder straps and undo the last row of the second square so they are not attached anymore. And then I will add another round of crochet around both of the squares and then see if that fits. If it doesn't fit yet, I will add another round and I will just keep going until the squares are big enough, if I crochet them together on top of the shoulders and at the sides, that it will fit me and it won't be too tight, and I can wear something underneath, because I obviously need to wear something underneath. And yeah, so just wanted to show you how sometimes things do not work out. I still like the way this is attached at the side. I think that can look quite nice. If I add more rounds, I'll probably have to rethink this, because what I did is I just attached it where this pattern bit is, but that's decreasing. So if I add another round, it will probably be too small to only attach it here. I'll see what I do when I get there. But just to let you know how things are with this top, it's almost finished, but didn't work out. Okay, so that's all the finished objects now. Now on to the things I am working on. And I'll start as usual with my socks, I think, if I can reach them. Yep, I've got them. Okay, I started knitting what I call my sock couple that I knit every year. And that's 2 pairs of socks that I knit for a couple that I give socks to every Christmas. And these are going to be her socks, and these are going to be his socks. I'm using Hermione's Everyday Socks, the pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. It's a very simple but very nice pattern. It just has some pole stitches in between. And I've used the pattern before, but I haven't used the heel construction that she gives in her pattern before. I've knit that kind of heel before, but I haven't done it in this combination yet. So this is the first time I'm actually knitting the whole pattern as written. And it's, yeah, as I said, it's a very simple pattern, but down on the foot, because I'm knitting no pattern underneath the foot, you can see the difference, what the yarn looks like with the pattern or without. Yeah, and I'm quite happy with how far I got. And both the colors are from this year's Rainbow series by Opal. And this has the gorilla, I think. And this has this bird, don't know what it's called. Yeah, so these are the socks I have on the go at the moment. I might start another pair. Yeah, because 3 pairs of socks is kind of the usual thing I have. And I might start another pair of spiral socks. We'll see. But I have another project that's kind of sock-like. It's these wrist warmers. And you might recognize the yarn. It's the leftover yarn from these socks. I really enjoyed the colors in these socks. And as you can't really see socks while you're wearing them, especially if you're wearing trousers on top, I thought I'll just knit a pair of small wrist warmers. And I decided to knit exactly 1 color repeat. It's not quite one color repeat. I started with this color and I cast off with that color, but I didn't use all of that color, so I could start again with that color for the second one. So that's the second one, and contrary to what I'm usually doing, I'm knitting these exactly the same. But the funny thing is, with the black and white, they already come out differently. It's so funny. And my plan was to wear them the opposite way around. So I wear one like this and one like this. And then I can show off all the colors in this yarn, and just something very small and simple to keep me warm. I found that when you get cold, if you cover your wrists, it makes a big difference, even though it's just a small part of your body that you cover, but it still makes a difference. I use 60 stitches, just knit around, no pattern at all. I think for the next pair I will go down with the number of stitches to 56 because they're just a tiny bit wide. Yeah, so I'll experiment with that. So these are the wrist warmers I'm knitting. Now on to the cat blanket. I finished crocheting all the squares before I went on holiday. So last video, I think I showed you the 5 middle parts that I still had to work around, and I finished them one a day before I left, and then I haven't touched the whole thing until this morning because I didn't take it with me on holiday. So these are the 5 squares that I finished off before I left, and finally I got round to crocheting a pair of eyes. And this is what the cat looks like if you put eyes on it, and a little nose and a tiny mouth. And I really like it. So right now the plan is to actually give most of the cat's eyes. I may leave 1 or 2 or 3 without eyes, so you get the impression that you look at them from the back, but I really like the eyes. And because the owl blanket that I crocheted last year, all the owls had eyes, yeah, I just like to have eyes on these as well. So now I need to do the eyes, which will take quite a bit of time. Then I will have to sew them together, and then I will have to crochet the border. So I will try and keep working on that, but I have another important crochet project that I started during my holidays, and as that has a deadline, I might not work on the cat blanket too much in the coming few weeks, but once the dress is finished, I can work on the cat blanket again full power. And the crochet project I'm showing you now is a dress pattern that's called Promise, by Heather from HGCD. I'll link to her. I'll link to the pattern. No, I can't link to the pattern yet because it's not published yet. I'll link to something underneath the video so you can check out where to find her Ravelry or Instagram account, or you just look for Promise crochet dress. I'm sure you'll find it, and I think it's HG Crochet Designs or Designs Crochet. I keep forgetting what way around. Anyway, she had asked for test crocheters, and I had written to her asking to test the pattern, but then I didn't hear back from her. So when I left for my trip, I didn't bring any yarn because I thought she had other testers that were testing the pattern. But then I got an email from her while I was away that I could test the pattern. And then I thought if I wait to start until I'm back home, it might be a bit late and I will have very little time to finish the dress. So I went yarn shopping during my holiday, and I bought the same yarn that I used for this, Catania. I really like that yarn a lot. So it's Catania by Schachenmeier. And I bought these 7 colors. Yellow, 2 yellows, orange, 2 reds and 2 greens. And I started crocheting squares. And she says to use a 4mm needle, but I realized that with a 4mm needle I couldn't get gauge at all. I would have had to add another round of crochet around every motif, and I was thinking of doing that, but then I thought it'll change the look of the pattern a lot. So what I did is I used a different crochet hook that I had with me. I used the needle that I used, or I used the hook that I used for the white and grey top, and that worked out perfectly. With that hook I got gauge exactly, and then I started crocheting squares, and every square has 3 rounds, so I did some with 3 different colors, then I did some with 2 different colors, and then I did quite a few just in one color, so I'd be a bit quicker. And these are all the squares that I have crocheted so far. These are, I think I'm at 49 at the moment. For my size, I'm supposed to crochet 139 squares, which would mean I need another 70. But because I have rather short arms, I might leave off the last round of squares on each sleeve, which would mean I only need to crochet 131 squares. All the squares will get another round of crochet around in black, and while I do that round, I will attach the squares to each other. So they will all have a round of black around them, so the black will sort of keep everything together. And yeah, that's the crochet dress promise. And as soon as the pattern is released, I will let you know, and I will link my project page to the pattern once it's out. And yeah, you can all start crocheting granny squares then. So much for the crochet. That's all of the crochet I did during the last 3 weeks. I knit on 4 more projects that I will quickly show you now. One of the things I knit on, especially while I was in the car, is this square thing. I really like working on squares and knitting squares, and I used to knit, or I once knit a square with a lace pattern that was sewn together on 2 sides, a bit like this square, but instead of having buttons, I sewed it together. I knit on a little ribbing, and I really liked that, but I didn't like the combination of the lace pattern and the square, so I started the same thing with a different lace pattern, but I haven't finished that yet. And I also wanted to know how that jacket would work with brioche, with a brioche pattern. So that was the first thing I tried. I tried to knit a square with brioche, but because of the way I placed the increases, instead of a square, instead of straight lines, I got a spiral. So if you look at the increases, you can see that they spiral round like that. So I'm not quite sure what the finished object will look like. It will probably not be a nice square, but it will probably be a wobbly something. So I stopped knitting on that for a while. I started a new one. I changed the increases so that I did get straight lines, and I finished knitting that a long time ago. I didn't make it very big. I called it a kid's jacket, gave it to one of the kids of my cousin. And but I also wanted to finish this one. So I thought, as we had quite a bit of car traveling to do, I decided that was a good time to work on this. So I continued knitting on it. And my original plan was to have the sides be about 90 to 100 centimeters. That was the size that the other jacket had. But with the brioche, I am now thinking it might get a bit too heavy, and because the brioche is very flexible and things pull in different directions, I might not make it quite that big. So I've just finished my ball of yarn. I think it's a second. I thought it was a third, but I weighed it, and I think it's just the second ball of yarn. And I think I have 108 stitches on every side now. I might do one more increase, so I have 110 stitches, and then maybe I'll bind it off just to see what it looks like, because I already have 2 cables in here, but it's still way too small to show what the form looks like. And because it's probably not going to be straight, I may not sew it together. I may keep it as a shawl kind of thing. Maybe I'll add buttons. Maybe I will sew it together at some points. I have no idea. So this is a big experiment that I'm doing. And I'll let you know how things work out. Then the next thing, it's another thing that I started knitting during the holiday, is a poncho. I think I talked about it before in the last episode. I'm not too sure. It's a really big cotton yarn, and I'm knitting this to be a costume in the theatre here in Wiesbaden. I've knit part of a costume before, and this is the second time I was asked if I could knit a costume, and of course I said yes. And she had a picture with how she wants what she wants the poncho to look like, and so I knit a gauge swatch to have my gauge, but also to try out patterns. So I tried this pattern with knits and pearls and with a lace bit, but she didn't like that so much. She said she wanted this pattern, but I thought it looked a bit too small, so I tried to just add, I think I just added 1 stitch and 1 round to every pattern, but I thought that looked a lot better. I also went up 2 needle sizes for this bit, and I thought that was a bit too loose, so I stayed with the number of stitches and rows, but I went down another needle size, and this is the pattern that I'm going with. And I tried a ribbing and some garter stitch just to see how I will work the edges. And I decided to go with the knit 1 purl 1 ribbing on the bottom and on the sides. And this is what the pattern looks like on the whole thing. And it's really difficult to tell the front and back, but I think this is the front, and my plan is to have that as the back, to knit up to the shoulders, then cast off for the neckline, do the 2 fronts, and then attach them again, and then go down the front, so it'll be one piece. I won't have to sew anything. I will work some buttonholes on the fronts, and then put buttons on the back, and then you can button it on the side, and I'll knit a collar. Is it a turtleneck? Maybe it is. You'll see when I get there. And yeah, I just wanted to show you how things can work from a gauge swatch to the pattern. And there's also something else I wanted to show you. When I knit, I almost always use this kind of salvage stitch, which I'm not quite sure what it's called in English. And for most things, I really like it. But for this pattern, because you can see them, there's no seam, so you can always see the salvage stitch. And I didn't really like it too much with this yarn and this pattern, so I decided to go with a different one. And I got the idea from Sarah's little gnome, because she in her pattern she specifies how to do this stitch so it looks nice with the beard, and I really like that, so I decided to use that same stitch for my poncho, and this is what it looks like. And if you look very closely, you can see that this is the right side where you have 3 knit stitches, and on this side there's only 2 knit stitches, and then this salvage stitch. And because I only pick it up at the beginning of the row, I pick it up at the end of the row, I knit it or I purl it, so it's only knit every other round, so it's a bit longer than the others, but it still looks really nice, and it gives it a very nice edge, I think. So yep, just wanted to let you know that I'm doing that this way. Now, what else? 2 more. My snowflake pullover out of Opal Abo yarn, subscription yarn. I have almost finished it. Before I went on holiday, I had finished this upper part. I had finished both of the sleeves, and I did all the calculations, how many stitches I need to fit the pattern in, and if I wanted to do the increases after I did the waist shaping. And I ended up only increasing, I think I increased 8 stitches, so the number would fit. And then I've knit the same pattern that I knit on the sleeves and that I have up here, and I've already started the ribbing. I will probably try it on once before I cast it off, just to make sure that the length and everything and the width is okay. But if everything is okay, all I have to do is knit a few more rounds of ribbing and cast off, and then my pullover will be done. And then I can start the skirt. I want a matching skirt because I have so much of that yarn. Oh, by the way, this is my second ball of blue yarn. I usually need 3 balls of yarn for a pullover, long sleeve pullover, but I think because of all the white that I've knit in and the sleeves are fairly tight, I'm still working with my second ball of yarn. So I have lots and lots of yarn left for my skirt, and maybe for even another project, we'll see. Now the last project is still very small, and that's the Gemini knit along that we're doing in my with my YouTube channel and on my Ravelry group. And I have only knit the lace pattern, but that was on purpose because I decided to do another tutorial video for how to go on with the yoke after the lace pattern, because the rate of increases changes. I hadn't realized that when I filmed the first video, so I thought it would be really easy to just finish the yoke and then go on splitting off the arms and everything. But instead of increasing every other round, you're supposed to increase every round until you have the number of stitches you need, and then you knit straight to get the length of the yoke. That's different from most raglan pullovers as far as I know, so I wanted to do a video about that and explain that. As usual, they're only available in German, my tutorials, but I think there's so many English tutorials out there, you probably won't need one. Yeah, so I put the yarn, I put the stitches on a bit of yarn so I could try it on, and I thought I'll just leave it like that so I can show you. And yeah, and then after I finish the video, I can put the stitches back on the needle, and then maybe during the weekend find the time to film the tutorial. Yeah, okay, so that was everything that I knit and crocheted on during my holiday. I plan to do the next video on Monday, so because I'm 2 days late today, there won't be that much time to do things. Maybe it'll be a shorter episode. We'll see, but I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'll see you in the next one.